everyone. This is the Abundance Oracle. Please like, subscribe, and share, or whatever you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so I had a request from Between the Fence Posts, and he said, can I please tell a little bit about what it was like when I started out. Let me just turn the, still a little warm to sit in the car. Okay, so what I did, it's different from his situation, which is not going to be, I'm sorry, Chris, you're not going to be happy to hear this. But what I did is I started out when I was super duper young. And the only thing I could afford was my very first, I saved $10,000. I didn't understand about private mortgage insurance at the time. And that it was going to cost me more money to put 10% down than 20% down. So I had $10,000, and the only thing, I think it was basically in the whole town, was a very, very small, but wonderful, I loved it, maybe because it was my first one, condominium. And it cost $100,000. It was in a great section of town in Marblehead, Massachusetts. It was across from the antique fire department. So you gotta remember, I was very young. So all the cute men, the firefighters, used to sit in their chairs out in front waiting for, a call, which hardly ever came. So I got used to talking to them and everything. And there was not a terrible lot amount of work that you could do to improve this little condominium I had. So the walls were painted, and the size of the bedroom was small. If I meant it was bigger than a twin size bed, so I had a full size bed anyway. So it worked for me, the full size bedroom. And it had really fabulous, what do they call it? Zen, or the good feelings inside of there. And I was like, I don't understand why this place seems just so fabulous. It had a antique fireplace that worked, but I couldn't afford to buy the wood. So I put candles in there to make the fireplace look cute, and had a nice little mantle, white mantle. And the kitchen, ready, you stand at the edge of the kitchen and you take one big step in, and there you are, smack dab in front of the window to the left. In front of you, you had a little teensy countertop, and you had your sink. And if you pivoted, not stepped, if you pivoted to the right, there was a refrigerator that opened up into the space. You had to back up a little when you opened the door because it was a little tight in there to get the door open. But anyhow, it was before they had microwaves, really, or maybe no one could afford a microwave at those cheap places. And then the fun part was the bathroom was, compared to everything else, was huge. So what I found out eventually was that that little space I had was, the bedroom was one of the guests or the patient's bedroom in this this building. And the building was a birthing center. It was a little hospital where people came in the olden days to have their babies. And I was sleeping in the bedroom after people delivered their babies they got to stay in. And it had a really old bathtub and an old sink. Those nice antique porcelain sinks were really fabulous. And it had a linoleum floor, of course. No tile because it was too expensive for tile. Although I do think I might have had tile above the bathtub. I do think, because I don't remember wanting to change that out. So anyway, I really cleaned the linoleum, and that paint, and I painted the bedroom really carefully so I didn't spill on the carpet, because I'm sure there was only plywood under the carpeting, I'm sure. Now, in my mind, that was the most wonderful little place. It was so charming and cute, and I only had it, if I remember correctly, it was like a year. I owned it for a year. And then I decided, I'm making decent money. I think I'm going to get a little bit bigger place. But I didn't sell the first place. So I found someone to rent the first place and gave them a lease for a year. And then I found a little bit bigger place. And the next place was in Marblehead, Mass as well, on Harris Street. Now, it's a one-way street. It's small, and if you ever go to Harris Street, I don't know what color it is now, but you will know it's like third down the street, but you have to go around like a little loop. So when you're almost to the end of the street, on the right-hand side is Harris Street, and how you will know is the house itself is literally leaning, but it's been that way for so very, very long that all the bookcases, the staircase, the kitchen cabinets, everything was built in to the tilt, so you couldn't fix it unless you ripped everything out, and nobody was going to rip anything out because it was so very, very charming. Again, the backyard was solid weeds. It was very small, but it was solid weeds. Now, I'm usually really, really good at telling the truth, but I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I need a little more down payment for this house. And she said, I don't have it. I can't give it to you. So I went to my dad. And I think it was National Grant or Marblehead Savings, one of the two. National Grant, I think it was giving me the mortgage. And they said, you need to put whatever the amount was. I can't remember what it was. And you need to have, since you're going to own the other place and you're going to have this place, you need to have a co-signer. So I called up my dad and I said, Mom, I'm going to get a bigger place. It's all good. The bank said they'd give me the mortgage and everything, but I need someone to sign. I'm a little young, I guess. I don't know. I don't quite understand why they need a co-signer, because I'm always keep my word. Okay. Then he said, well, what about your mom? I said, well, she doesn't have enough money right now to do it, but she would. She said she would if she could. So my dad thought, it must have been okay then. So he signed the papers. Now, do you notice how I explained my mother said she can't? The little part about she would if she could, well, let's just say that was pushing it a lot, and I just had some hopeful thinking at the time. And when I expressed that to my dad, he said okay and signed the paper for me. It did all work out absolutely fabulous. And it was the first time that I ever thought, it had 3 bedrooms. Now, bedrooms the size of Marblehead bedrooms were itty bitty. So my room, I fit my full-size bed in there, and then the upstairs used to be the attic, and it was divided in half, and I rented out one side of the attic to my friend Angie, and you'll see Angie every once in a while. We're still friends. It's been 30 years probably, maybe more than 30 years. Don't make me tell you how long. It's really long because I'm old. And she was the very first roommate I had. And our whole lives, we've been friends for, closer to 40 years. So we had our first fight out of the 2 fights we've had ever knowing each other. and it was over lamb, and I said I didn't want any seasoning on it, and she's Greek. So what that means to her is only an inch thick seasoning, not 2 inches thick seasoning. And so we had a first fight. And ever since then, I told her, listen, we're not. She was sitting on the stairs. I was sitting at the bottom of the stairs. And I said, you're not listening till we discuss this and get over this fight because we're going to be best friends. And it probably took an hour or two. And there were reasons why we both took the positions that we took. And we both understood. And we never really fought again. It handled that. And she knew, she knew I was there for her all the time. And she's now, I think this week she's in Greece, I think, visiting her family. So anyway, we've been friends for a long time. I go back to the story. The house was leaning. So that was the second house. Okay, I did the same thing with a third house. I bought a different house up on a hill, Jersey Street. I didn't know any better. Remember, I'm doing all this after a year. I probably was in Harris 2 years, maybe. I don't know. I was making decent money, though. I was very good at what I did, so I made good money. So then I rented out Harris Street, and I went to Jersey Street in Marblehead. It was on a hill, and it was on a cliff, I'm going to say. And I said, oh, yeah, I think, yeah, you really need a driveway here. I'll take this house. And I bought the house, and then I said, oh yeah, I just need to find somebody to blast the cliff off, and it was solid rock, so that I could put in a little driveway. Little did I know how much that would cost to do, and you had to get all your neighbors to sign and to say it's okay, but I didn't know any better. So this went on and on. For the first 4 were FHA, and they allow you to do that. You get, because you're growing bigger and bigger, the houses that you need, you know, because then it was Angie, come on, let's the two of us go, just move to this nicer house. It was really cute, charming house. And she would say so too. She'd say the first one's charming, but the Harris Street was charming, but Jersey Street, they kept getting better and better, cuter and cuter. Okay, I kept going like that for a long time until I had too many, and it was too many to handle. I had to get Angie, she was CPA, or she was the accountant bookkeeper at the time, I guess, and she did all the bookkeeping work. And then Miss Karen, who I don't know if she follows me or not, or even knows that I have this here. I still know her too. So she did all the real estate. Her husband first started out helping me get renters for real estate, and then he said, oh, let me introduce you to my wife. She can do this job. I'm like, okay. And you know, she is, or was, recently the president of the Commercial Real Estate Brokers Association for the Boston branch. This is a nationwide place. So we've all turned out pretty well just because of my craziness, and it's all worked out well. When I got to 50 houses, it took me 2 years, and I sold them off, and I rolled the money into commercial real estate. Because my mentor and best friend, I call him my grandfather, he's a lot older than me, he was such a wonderful, wonderful man. He advised me, roll it into commercial real estate, don't keep accumulating these little places. And that worked out really well because they were triple net, which means you don't handle anything except their rent check in to pay your mortgage. And I was at the perfect time for buying things, because it was just when the rates were just starting. We were at the top, and I bought at the top, which means I made a lot of money in rent. And every 5 years, when I had to refinance for commercial real estate, the interest rates went down, and the amount I paid off the mortgage, allowed me to get reduced mortgage payments every time the bank recommitted. So anyway, that's a little bit, just thought you wanted to know, and I'll think of other things to tell you as well. Little tips that I have. I just thought of one. Okay. I love you all. Keep up the good work. Keep going. And sometimes, like for me, ignorance was bliss. I love you. Bye.